We're getting married this month, can you tell? So we're talking about our top 10 games that are most sentimental to us.
Hi, I'm Julian and this is Libby, and together we are BoxedMeeples, so the top 10 most sentimental games. Now, these aren't our favourite games.
No, that's a completely different list.
Yeah, these aren't even the games we play most. What they are is the games that all have a special memory attached to them.
Yeah. And some of them might be kind of the games that we used to play a lot and we've sort of grown through because they would have been more sort of the beginning of our relationship or stuff like that. But yeah, they're very much ones that remind us of our relationship.
Now, normally when we do kind of these top 10 lists, we kind of decide them together. But what we've done this time is we've both chosen 10 games.
Yeah.
And we've got 5 games we want to talk about and then kind of 5 backups. Because obviously this is about our shared experiences.
There's going to be some crossovers.
There's going to be a few overlaps. So we've got 5 we're definitely going to talk about if we get a chance. But if someone else picks one of those, we've got backup choices. So either way, at the end of this, you're going to hear 10 games that mean something special to us. And at the end of it, any games that we haven't mentioned on the list, we kind of throw in as those honourable mentions.
Yeah.
But you've got an appointment coming up today where you're going to choose your bridal fragrance. Who even knew that was a thing?
I'm going to go straight in there with one that I know is on Julian's list. It is Rebellion. And of course, we talk about it all the time. I thought that Julian was more of a board gamer than he was when we first met. So I had been given Rebellion for my birthday, late October, and we met sort of mid-December, and I hadn't had a chance to play it yet because I hadn't had anyone to sort of get it to the table, learn the rules, do all of that jazz. And so I convinced him that on our second date, which because of Christmas and stuff ended up being on Boxing Day, that we should play Rebellion. And of course, Julian's like a duck in water with his feet paddling underneath, like panic mode. This isn't a party game. But it was our first board game that we ever played together, and you put in so much effort to learn the rules of this massive game with 2 rule books and appendix, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously it was our first board game, but it's so epic. We both love Star Wars, and it just is a memory that we've carried on, and it's now this tradition that we try to make it Boxing Day, but certainly every Christmas period, we always get Rebellion out there as part of our sort of relationship tradition. And yes, we try and play it throughout the year, but at that point, it's always like, it's like an us day.
Just to explain a bit more. Obviously, when we met, we talked about kind of mutual things that we both liked, and I had said I like board games, which is true. I wasn't, I was trying to make a good impression, but I'd only just really scratched the surface of these kind of games. So to see that massive box being placed on this rickety table I had in a flat at the time, and go, oh boy, I'm in for something here.
Barely fitted on the table, certainly sort of plunged you in the deep end rather than sort of starting, delving you more into those entry-level games and things like that.
I think that memory is it's a fantastic game, but I think that memory elevates it for both of us. And it was indeed on my list.
Of course it was.
In the first kind of sort of few months of dating, and we went to your friend's house.
Okay,
and,
yes. This is also on my list.
Oh, is it? Okay. But you've got a very close circle of friends, and I knew one of those we were going to meet who's a board gamer, and she was largely responsible for getting you involved in the hobby like decades ago. And I think I was slightly more nervous about meeting your friends than I was about meeting your parents. And we went to...
The judgment's real.
We went to their house and we agreed we played 2 games. We played Wingspan and we played Zombicide. And I hadn't played either of those games before. I knew about Wingspan. I was keen to play it. But I hadn't really kind of read the cards properly. I was really nervous.
Yeah.
And you have obviously your mission goals when you're playing Wingspan, which are just personal to you and they're kept secret. So it wasn't like someone else could help me with this. But I read that the number of birds played would equate to your end game scoring and some. I can't remember the exact details of the card, but I totally misread that and thought it meant the number of birds you've got.
in
So-
your hand.
And I think there actually is an objective.
No, and this is
called-
it, because the rest of us had played Wingspan before, and there is a card that has a birds in hand, and my thing says Wingspan, birds in hand.
So I'd misread this
so
objective.
We all
and
assumed that's what you had.
so I'm just going around going, okay, I'm going to collect birds this round. And then by the end of it, I had a hand of like 30
Yeah.
cards or
And
something.
we're like, do you not want to play any of those birds? No, this is fine. This is fine.
And so it wasn't until the end that I got the worst score of anyone I think I've ever got on Wingspan. Totally misread the card, was massively embarrassed by this. So much so, I didn't eat enough pizza that day, which also meant I was fully being judged by my lack of pizza appetite.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you were nervous. That's not normally
There's
a problem.
pizza put in front of me. I'm devouring the whole thing. But 2 slices this time. And we did play then Zombicide together, which was nice because that was more thematic and more what I was used to at that point. And so I think still now when we meet the friends and we do have war game night, we every time Wingspan comes up, my inability to read is also mentioned.
Yeah. Takenoko is one that we would play a lot when we weren't sort of in each other's vicinity, sort of playing online on an app or something like that. Evenings on the phone, playing a game and chattering away at the same time. But the memory that sticks with me is we took the physical copy on sort of like a picnic, walk, jaunt kind of thing, and we were playing it in a park. And you had your back to the sun, and by the end of that day, your neck was very,
neck was
very
about this
red.
colour,
Yes,
really.
very red. But we hadn't had that much opportunity to be outside at this point, sort of in the relationship.
This is
because
during
obviously-
lockdown.
Yeah, it was during lockdown, and we obviously met in winter, so it was one of those first kind of outdoor gaming, picnicking, playing a game, that sort of vibe. But yes, was quite red by the end of it. Yeah.
I was enjoying the game. I was just lost. What's black and white and red all over? It's a hungry panda with sunburn, or
Or you.
or me. So as you just mentioned, we met and then lockdown happened. So we weren't able to actually meet in person for a very long time. And so we just spent a lot of time talking, as you said. And one of the games we played a lot during that time was Lords of Waterdeep.
Also on my list.
And
I think if we'd done a top 5, it would have matched exactly. Yeah.
And recently we discussed what games we're gonna clear from our collection, take to bring and buys, because obviously we've got a lot of games. We've got so many games we could play a different game every day a year and still not play them all. So it's okay.
We don't play a game a year, so it's a problem.
Yeah. So we discussed what we're going to sell, and we came across Waterdeep, and we're like, we don't play that a great deal now because there's other worker placement games that have a lot kind of heavier mechanics there. We haven't got the expansion, which I think you really do need for that game to kind of take it up to a level that we normally play at.
Yeah, but then there's that quandary of like, well, do you spend £30-40 on an expansion for a game that you're not getting to the table very much?
So it's so we discussed selling it, and I just couldn't. I couldn't sell it because it just reminded us of our start of our relationship, where we weren't playing this physical copy, which we now have. We were playing on the app because you can play the app kind of remotely. So you could take your turns, I could take my turns. We didn't have to be in the same place, but we're still playing games together, and got kind of so many weird memories of little in jokes we do.
The sound on the app, like
just someone hums it badly when you're playing it for countless hours.
Yeah, or sometimes if it's somebody else's turn in any other game that we're playing, one of us might hum because your turn's ended.
And I remember we then met afterwards, or just before actually, and you said, "Oh, I'm playing this game called Lords of Waterdeep," and I hadn't heard of it. And you're saying, "Oh, you have to do these missions, and you go and you're controlling wizards and stuff." And I thought, this woman is really cool. I didn't realise that at the time. I'm going to marry her. But I did think when you're talking about it, I was like, wow, she's really cool. She likes this kind of thing. So yeah, lots of memories associated with Lords of Waterdeep, even though we don't really play it a great deal now.
No.
I would
we did
never
get
say
it to the table quite a bit.
We played, when we're
but
allowed to meet, we played the physical copy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would never part with this game just because of those memories.
Yeah. I'm going to get in there quick with another one that I think's probably on your list, and it's a game that just really reminds me of you. And it's got that aesthetic that you love, that kind of gaming feel about it, which is where you've come from video games, and kind of come into board games.
I forget how it is
from that way, and yeah, it's Boss Monster.
Yeah, Boss Monster was going to be on my list. So,
and that aesthetic that comes with Boss Monster, with Overboss Jewels up there as well. But Boss Monster specifically was, I think, the game that you brought to the to the crowd. Yeah, early doors gaming. It's one that I'd not heard of, and you brought that into our gaming life and our relationship at that point. And it's one that reminds me of kind of lazy Sunday mornings in bed, hanging out on the sofa, just feeling cozy, and you didn't have to get a huge table and spread everything out. But it's a super fun game, and you'd custom print cute little cards of each of our characters. So yeah, just one that we'd always enjoy playing together, and you've got that big chest to store loads of the bits and bobs and the expansions in. So one that definitely gives me Julian vibes.
Now, do you know what the first game we played was when we got engaged?
I do, because it was on my list too. It's Tides.
Tides, yes. So this is a little 18 card button shy game, and I'd taken loads of kind of button shy games with us when we went to America. And yes, I just proposed, and I was obviously super happy that day. And we went to Santa Monica Beach.
We were at Venice Beach.
Venice Beach.
Okay. They blend into each other, but yeah. So that we'd been to Santa Monica the day before, and then we were just slightly further down to Venice that morning.
Yeah, and I just remember being on the beach, just seeing you and being elated that you wanted to be my wife, and playing this game. I don't think we played it much before, if at all, before we actually played it for the first time.
No, I don't think so.
And yeah, you kept on nipping into the sea. And,
get my feet wet.
Come back and we play another round of this game.
See who has the most seashells. Yeah.
And I just have really lovely memories kind of associated with it. Similarly, the game... I'm doing kind of a cheeky bonus one here.
It might be on my list.
Santa Monica. And just because it reminds you of that trip. And there's a great kind of sense of humour and kind of references in that game that you kind of get once you've been there and you kind of experience it. And obviously that time is very, very special to me. So yeah, Santa Monica is on there as well, but not numbered one.
When we sort of started out board gaming, an early-ish present that you'd got was one of these scratch-off 100 board games you must play posters for me. And I mean, we've been gradually working our way through. We're still working our way through it because obviously new games come out and you start playing those, or there's different ones that aren't on the list. And maybe we'll do something about that at some point. But on there was quite a few kind of two-player kind of chess style games, and I think we sort of quickly discovered that they weren't your bag at the time. I mean, I remember we played Omitama about 18 times. You lost every single one of them, and then refused to play it ever again until Boop came along and you became slightly obsessed with it.
I did.
All most of last year. And I think if we did some sort of outtakes video of the number of times where you've told you guys all of the different places where he has played Boop, I mean, it would be quite hilarious. You took it everywhere.
I always had it with me. It's like, oh, we've got 5 minutes. Let's play Boop.
Yeah. And I think it brought back your love of those kinds of games. It opened up. I then introduced you to Santorini again afterwards. And it turns out, you didn't like those kind of games at that point, but now we've played so many other games and different mechanisms and things like that, you've kind of come back around to love them. And I found it interesting, that kind of board game journey that you can go on in terms of honing down what you like, but also growing through stuff that you like and then coming back to like something you didn't think you did. And I found that really interesting.
Yeah, it did kind of rejuvenate my like for those kind of 2-player dueling games, which I just thought I couldn't win. I didn't know what I was doing wrong.
But I remember taking it on holiday last year, just the two of us, and we're sat by the pool and stuff, hanging out with our little cats. Who doesn't love that? I think we'll probably take it on honeymoon as well. Why not?
Obviously, we met and then lockdown happened, so that kind of vastly changed what we could and couldn't do. But one thing we did do was play Imperial Assault.
Yes, loved it.
And a friend of ours had set up the whole campaign so we could play it remotely. He had various cameras showing different boards, and then the four of us would all get together and play it. He had Games Master a game, and we went through the whole campaign. And to be honest, I think he kind of artificially extended the campaign.
Yeah, should we just do this extra side mission?
We've got a side mission we have to do next, just because we all were really loving it. And there were some, horrible times during that whole stretch of lockdown period, but this was one of the absolute highlights of me. I'd really look forward to sitting down, getting to see you on video and playing this game, and it's one of the things I'd look forward to every week. We play it actually a couple of times each week, played the whole campaign and really loved it. So yeah, I've got so many happy memories associated with playing through the whole Imperial Assault. And I only have to say, how quickly does someone turn to the dark side? Turns out if they're our friend, incredibly quickly, probably the first chance they ever get.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the last game we did get to do it in person rather than over video, with files that have been sent us in front, and that was pretty epic. So that's a game I'd like to go through again. Actually, it would be super fun. Next up for me was it's my last one now, isn't it?
So if we kept count.
Bit tricky to choose, and I have got a few on here that I haven't mentioned yet. I'm not sure which ones you'll have, but I think I'm gonna go with Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, like we've said with some of the others here, is a game that we played a lot on an app during lockdown, and phone calls whilst early days of dating and that kind of thing. It was in that Lords of Waterdeep, the Tokaido, which we haven't mentioned, but like that was in that
Tokaido as well.
But also, it was one of those games where when we were able to get together again, it's one that kind of works all right outside, because those cardboard like rooms that you're adding to the castle, they're quite chunky, so it's not too bad for outside in the garden, picnicking, having a barbecue. We definitely did that and played that with some of our friends, so that was really nice, sort of getting together and spending time, not just us two, but with a group of friends as well, and being able to play. So I do recall that one as being
sweet,
having a little crossover from just an us getting to know each other to a sort of a wider,
this is what we do with our friends.
Yeah.
Right. Well, finally for me, I have gone for Sleeping Gods.
Oh, interesting. I didn't actually have that on my list, but it makes sense that you have.
That's okay. Yeah. So earlier we talked about. I played a lot of video games. I grew up playing those adventure games. I loved the Zelda games. So finding a kind of middle ground, because you really love the Red Raven games.
Yes.
So being able to experience that whole adventure with you, I think we played it kind of in January, playing night after night, I think, realistically.
Yeah, and it was kind of a bit like a Netflix show for us.
We really binged it. And but sometimes we just play for an hour. Sometimes we play for 3-4 hours and go, gosh, it's now 2 a.m. We should probably go to bed. But I just love that sense of adventure and get to experience that whole kind of campaign experience of you, because you often start campaigns and you think, oh, we're never going to finish this.
You have all those intentions,
but we did. We reached a conclusion. It wasn't the best ending, it was a good ending, and I'm super excited about playing through it all again and experiencing the true ending. I think there's certainly one more playthrough in that game. There's so much we haven't seen.
And there are some expansions and things to explore different areas. There's certainly a lot of that map that we haven't gone to. But what I found quite interesting was a lot of people say like Sleeping Gods is pulling together all the best bits from Ryan Malcat's games, and a lot of the gaming community would have seen that progression from taking this story element from that one and taking this element from this and like really honing in on that bit that everyone liked of that game and sort of thing, whereas you kind of I think this was one of your first
I hadn't
Red
played, I hadn't played
Raven
one before.
games. So you sort of dived in on what everyone was saying was the sort of the pinnacle of it. So that was an interesting kind of your first glimpse of that, and then working backwards to have then play Islebound, then play
Yeah.
Near and Far and stuff. So that was interesting.
Yeah, if you haven't played it, you really should. You really should experience Even Gods. But if you're going to play it, be better cartographers than we were.
Oh, we were dreadful. So that's one thing to improve on the
Yeah.
next playthrough. For
And
sure.
I think because it relies so much on remembering where you've been and what words you had, that's why it works so well in close succession. But yeah, I love playing Sleeping Gods, and I'm looking forward to playing through again.
Yeah, well, that's our 10 sentimental games, but there are a few
Okay,
others
so
that did
what
make
were your
our
backups
lists.
in case, for...
So ones that we haven't yet mentioned is Scythe, Rise of Fenris was the first campaign kind of game. And I feel like that really sort of changed how you are as a board gamer.
Okay, yeah.
You play a game like Scythe over and over, and you kind of hone into different things and you try different strategies, particularly if you're going with the different types of factions that do different things and stuff. You really get to know the game, which we'd kind of done a little bit. And then we dove into this. And it forces you to do things differently because there's different goalposts for each of the different ones. And then it does get to one point, which if you've played it, I think that you'll know what I mean, where you then were playing in a very different style to what you've previously been used to, a much more aggressive style. And I think that's changed the way you game from that
I think so.
moment. It sort of like branched you off, opened up some options of, ooh, I can be a bit mean if I need to be in games, which is interesting.
I thought Scythe is a good one because that was our first game we kind of bought together.
It is, yes.
I can't remember the occasion, but we're going to go out for a meal and we ended up not going. And we said we would have spent sort of 70 quid on a meal and some wine. Let's just buy a game. And we bought Scythe. So that was our first co-owned. Game. Now we have. Yes, it's hard to tell who's nowadays.
I can't even remember. At one point there was a spreadsheet. It's gone out the window.
I've given up
on
that.
Yeah.
What else is on there?
You mentioned Tides already. Boop, I mentioned Arnak is the other one that's on there.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it recently in our top 10 cozy games, actually. It has that comfort, that familiarity. It's one that we can just sort of hang out together very easily and get to the table. And I think we like games that do fun stuff, give you a fun puzzle, but also give you a bit of a thematic vibe to it. And I'm not saying it's the most thematic game out there, but it certainly does have that Lara Croft, Uncharted, Indiana Jonesy kind of thing going on about it. And I like that vibe. I dig it.
That was.
Did you catch my archaeology joke there?
You dig it. And that was bought for us by a friend of ours as a moving in present.
Actually that's moving in here. And talking of moving in here, we should have mentioned, which it's not on my list. I don't know if it was on your backup list, but I remember standing right here.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And we had just agreed to buy this house.
Yeah, it wasn't ours at this point.
And we knew that we were going to put our board game shelves here. And you were stood right here and you said, right, well, this is the moment for me to back.
I'll back
this
it. And then I'll put it on the shelves on here. And it's tiny for dungeons.
Yeah, so technically that was the first Kickstarter for our first house together.
It's the first thing you bought in the house, technically.
Yeah.
I would hold it up now, but it's not here.
We've had to expand the shelves to other spaces, other rooms.
Across the house.
Bookshelves aren't bookshelves. Yeah.
No. But yeah, it was here for a long time. And I do remember that. It looked very different then. wasn't a pretty house then.
And at the point that we bought this shelf, we were like, oh, it'll take us ages to fill this. We've got loads of space.
Within weeks it was full.
Yeah.
No, it's Tussie Mussie was on my list.
Oh, yes. But then I think we might hear some more about why that's sentimental to us in our videos. So keep your eye out.
It's very present at the moment for me. That makes sense in a few weeks' time. The Rocketeer.
Oh yes, that is an excellent choice.
Yeah, and I very nearly wanted to mention that because for lots of reasons it was set where we got engaged, where I proposed.
Yeah, we got it on our engagement trip.
Yes, so I mentioned it in some videos prior to us going that I love Rocketeer, and we couldn't get hold of those kind of Disney licensed games in the UK then. No. I don't think we still can.
It's quite tricky.
And someone who watches our channel said, well, I'll buy it for you. And we're going to America, so they had it sent to the hotel, and that was really a kind of moment for us because we never anticipated that. We never expected anyone to do anything like that. So it was really nice that someone was like, I really like your content. Let me just get it for you.
Yeah, I mean, that kindness and generosity was just blew us away. And
yeah,
having a game like that we can play and it reminds us of our like engagement trip.
Yeah.
Is I don't know why I didn't put it on my list now.
It's very special. So
this 10 is expanding, isn't it?
It really is. We're stretching the limits really of what was. I think that's all that was on my list that we haven't talked about.
Quite a lot of crossovers.
It was, which makes sense because obviously there's a shared experiences and their shared memories. So I was anticipating there to be a lot.
Yes, which is why we sort of pre-planned for that.
Yeah, just in case backups. But what games are sentimental or emotional to you? Maybe there's a certain game you play regularly, or maybe there's a certain one that reminds you of someone. Maybe there's some games you see that remind you of us. I'd love to hear about that.
Oh yeah, that would be so fun.
So, maybe...
do you look at, I don't know, a root or something and go, oh yeah, Julian loves a bit of root, doesn't he? I tried it and hated it. No, it's probably be Boot, wouldn't it? Someone will be on a boat playing a game, Julian played Boot on a boat.
Boot and go, what's the fuss about this? Or Yado, someone played Yado and go, oh, Libby was right, this is a great game. Do let us know in the comments down below if you can think of a sentimental game.
And of course, if you are looking to add to your collection, we do recommend that you go to your friendly local game store. But for us in the southeast of England, that is Chaos Cards, and they do have an online shop, so you can shop with them too. And if you use the discount that is in the discount code that's in the description, then you might save yourself a few pennies at the checkout.
A brand new one now. So if you have used one in the past, don't worry, this is the new one. You can use it again, but only use it once on a purchase of £5. But thank you so much for joining us on this journey, both today and generally. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little insight into games that mean the most to us. And if you're interested in us, do consider subscribing,
please,
and watching some upcoming videos, because the sentimental is going to go through the roof in the next couple of weeks. So if you are interested in us as a couple, you might be interested in some of the stuff we're putting up as well. But as always, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.